Welcome to the Block Builder Podcast, coming to you live on this beautiful Thursday, 6:33 p.m. I'm your speaker for tonight, Greg. I got my sister, Trina, Lady Hurricane in here with me, my brother Cam, and my bro T. And tonight, we coming to y'all with a special message called In a Pandemic, a Sick State of Living. Now let's begin. And we're going to come out of the book of Proverbs 23:7 with our scripture for the night. Keep it simple. For as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. And that's out the book of Proverbs. And I chose that scripture for this particular session due to as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. Now just keep that in mind. And now what we're going to start by doing is we're going to analyze the title of this, Inner Pandemic, a Sick State of Living. Now, first, let's expound on what a pandemic is. Do anybody want to chime in, give a definition, give their own personal definition of a pandemic?
2020.
Yeah. Yeah. Go ahead, bro. Go ahead.
I think the pandemic is pretty much a moment of time where everything suddenly freezes or stops. Everything that was once normal, isn't anymore, and you just have to roll the punches.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I think it is.
Okay.
I believe it either it sped up or it got slower. That's my mindset. It's more so what you're more so in tune to. Some people put more emphasis on social media, so that connected you to, everything, more so than just your person. Cause you to be in the panic, because everything that's going on around you.
Yeah. What about you, bro? You got something?
To me, a pandemic is a situation that causes you to change the way you handle your current situation, the way you change your whole lifestyle, your whole movement. You know what I'm saying? How you cope, how you move, how you maneuver through life. That's what a pandemic is to me. For example, the coronavirus. You know what I'm talking about? Everybody got masks. We wasn't wearing masks back in the day. You know what I'm saying? Well, I say a year ago. This changed the course of life. Everybody got to take necessary precautions. So, a pandemic to me raises your awareness up. Causes you to be aware of the things that's going on around, all the things that you didn't know that was going on around. So, yeah.
Okay. That's all good definitions. That's all real good definitions. My definition of a pandemic, I'm gonna come straight out of the dictionary with it. And a pandemic is an epidemic occurring on a worldwide scale. So basically, a pandemic is the escalated version of an epidemic, which is the escalated version of an outbreak. Now, what all this is basically sickness. A pandemic is a certain type of sickness, a certain type of disease. Now, what is sickness? What is disease? Well, what would you classify as sick? What would you give a definition to someone who's sick or someone who's ill? What would your definition of that be? Sick or ill?
I mean, when you think sickness, you think something in the body that's illegal. Like, we want to be healthy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So when you think sick, meaning it's not good.
Yeah. So, you got something, Cam?
So I think of, when you say someone is sick, I be thinking that their body is, temporarily, in a way, having glitches. If
Yeah.
It makes sense. Like, your body having a glitch, like,
Yeah.
if you're allergic to something, you sneeze, or,
Yeah.
if something's in your throat, you cough, or, if something's not correct with your stomach,
Yeah. Yeah. And go ahead.
Okay. And I just feel like, being sick is just, your body is trying to, how do I say this? Like, your body goes from, okay, I'm fine, to pause, wait a minute, something's not right here. I'm trying to see exactly what it is. So you go through a stage or 2 or 3 to pretty much, go back to normal.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So, like, on what you touched on, the dictionary defines a illness or a sickness as a person not being in a healthy state of body or mind. So it could be either the body, if you're not fully healthy in your body or fully healthy in your mind, then you could be labeled as ill or sick. Now, the key words in the title that we're going to focus on is, the title is Inner Pandemic, a Sick State of Living. So we're going to focus on a key word, which is pandemic. That's why I just asked y'all to expound on what a pandemic was. And now we're going to focus on this phrase, state of living. Now, y'all done already gave, y'all definitions of what a pandemic is. I done already said or what the dictionary defines a pandemic is. So now what we're going to go over is kind of just explaining that progression. Because like I said, it is a progression. It starts off as an outbreak. Nothing just is a pandemic from the beginning. It starts off as an outbreak. It's an outbreak somewhere. And then once it becomes widespread enough in that area, it turns into an epidemic. Okay? So it went from an outbreak, and then it became more widespread, it became an epidemic. Now, once it starts traveling to different countries, once it starts traveling to different places, different types of people, different walks of life, it'll be declared as a pandemic. So it's actually a state of progression. And I have the actual phases. It's 6 phases of a pandemic. And as y'all know, I think right now we're currently in phase 3. We're currently in phase 3, but I'm just gonna go over the stages. Phase 1 is the investigation stage. It's a new type of virus. It's identified and investigated. The phase 2 is the recognition phase. It's increased cases or clusters of cases are identified along with increased potential for person-to-person transmission. Phase 3, which is what we're currently on right now, is cases of the virus are confirmed with both efficient and sustained person-to-person transmission. So what they're saying is right now it's under control. It's not spreading from person to person at a accelerated pace like it was in phase 2. Now it's starting to slow down. Phase 4 is the acceleration, and the acceleration phase, and this is when the new virus infects susceptible people. Public health officials may take measures such as closing schools, encouraging social distancing, and offering antiviral vaccines. That's phase 4, and they've already done that. They've already, shut down the schools and all that, and they say we're just in phase 3. Well, that's what they're doing. They're saying that's phase 4. But anyway, phase 5 is the deceleration phase, and that's where the cases are consistently decreasing. The rate of the cases is consistently decreasing. And then phase 6 is the preparation phase, and that's, even though the pandemic has subsided, just precautions on if it was to ever resurface, that they're preparing for it to come back again. So that was the phases of the pandemic. Now, we could go to an example as recent as like what y'all was just talking, COVID-19. Now, COVID-19, it was an outbreak last year, and it was declared an epidemic in late 2019.
Yeah.
It,
I mean, not to cut you off.
oh, go ahead.
A lot of people, like around November, December, all of a sudden have gotten sick. They had some people call it bronchitis, some people call little blues and little spells. Yeah, thank you. They also call it pneumonia, and no one actually knew what this was, but we found out this year that some people actually had already had cases of COVID-19,
Mm-hmm.
and we just had we thought it was just a simple since it's getting cold, and our body's gonna go through a little sick phase, but It's been around.
Yeah, COVID is actually it's a disease in animals, and the way that it got to us is the people in wherever the outbreak started, they were over there. They said they were eating bats that had the virus, and that's how it transmitted to us. But yeah, COVID, not COVID, coronavirus has been around in animals for a while, but this spreading to humans is new. But it was declared an epidemic in Wuhan, China, in late 2019, and then on March 11th of 2020, the World Health Organization declared COVID-19 as a pandemic. So that was on March 11th, 2020. So there is a stage of progression to a pandemic. It doesn't just start off severe. It comes and then it gradually gets more severe as time lapses. Okay. Now, the two important things that I want to focus on with this message is the place where it all started and a steady state of progression, being a progression from outbreak to pandemic. So to go back to the title once again, where does an inner pandemic start? Where is the place that it all began? Anybody want to take a swing at that?
Well, being that we're discussing the inner pandemic, that is the title of the sixth state of living. I would have to say that the inner pandemic causing the sixth state of living being, it doesn't have to really just be necessarily a body sickness. It can be a mental health issue, a physical problem, a financial problem. You know, that inner pandemic, it has to begin with self. You know, we tend to be our own worst critics. That means we be hard on ourselves. We put ourselves down more than most. When someone else will tell us, like, hey man, I see the work that you're doing, keep up the good work. Well, in our minds, I'm not doing anything, you know, and that causes a sickness within ourselves, a mental sickness, to where we feel like we're not good enough, you know. So I would have to say in a pandemic, we'll have to start with self, really from the mindset, you know, thoughts proceed.
Yeah, and bro, you hit it. Y'all want to touch on that any? Y'all want to touch on it any? Cause bro really hit it. I was gonna let y'all just say what y'all thought it was, and then I was gonna just to go a little bit deeper. I asked, where does an inner pandemic begin? Well, now let's move into the human being, a three-part being, which is body, mind, and spirit. And of course, bro already, he touched on what he believed that it began, which is in the mind. Do y'all want to say what y'all think it began in the spirit, in the mind, in the body?
Let me see. I feel like it starts all three, if that makes sense. Because everything always starts, mentally, and the mind and the body always fights with each other all the time. You told us that before.
Is it safe to say all three of them, that it's an entanglement more so?
You can't say that, sis, but you done jumped.
It's more so what we feed, though, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's all about perception, so
Yeah.
it is the mind, it is how we view things, it is, you know what I'm saying, that spirit that's within is what we feed.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Nah. Let me just explain the body, mind, and soul. 'Cause I know I done touched on the three-part being before, but let me just go over the functionality of the three-part being body, mind, soul. Let me just start with the spirit. Body, mind, spirit. Let me start with the spirit. Your spirit is basically you. Not the body, the spirit. Just like if I was to go outside and get in my car does not become me. I'm just inside my car. My car is the vehicle that I use to get around. same situation. Your spirit comes from the spirit world, but being manifest in the physical world, it needs a way to travel around physically. So your spirit is you. Your spirit is the part of you that's connected to God. Your spirit is, whenever you hear that voice in your head that tells you, hey, don't do that, or hey, you need to do this, or hey, you're slacking, or you're just sitting in traffic and you hear a little voice that say, hey, if you take this detour, it'll be faster. And then you say, I'll just take it. And then you take it and it ends up being faster. And you're like, how did I know that? And well, yeah. So the spirit has insight from God, because the spirit isn't in time. It's your body is in time, but your spirit is connected to eternity. So it can see past. You can look back in your mind and see things that you've done. Of course, the present. Sometimes even the future. If you have a strong enough spiritual connection, you'll experience deja vu, which is going into seeing something from the future. But anyway, that's the spirit. Now we move on to the mind. And the mind is basically a gateway. The mind is a guard at the door between the spirit and the body. Because the spirit wants to do a lot, but the spirit is spiritual, not physical. So the spirit, it will feel like, for example, God may put on your spirit, give this person $5. Now, that'll sit on your spirit, and what'll happen, you'll get a thought. Give this person $5. Now, your spirit can't come outside your body and just give the person $5, even though that's what it wants to do. It has to go through your mind. So your spirit might say, give this person $5, and your mind might say, no. This person doesn't deserve $5. This person doesn't, and your mind will start rationalizing and giving you these different things. So your mind is like a gateway or a guard at the door of your spirit. Your spirit can't force your body to do anything. Your spirit has to go through your mind, and your mind tells your body to do it. Your spirit could say, hey, give this person $5. If your mind is in agreement with that, your mind will make you move your arm and you'll give the person $5. If it's not in agreement with that, the person not getting $5. Now the body, that's just self-explanatory. It's the vehicle that you use to move around and interact with the physical world. So that is the three-part being that we just explained. Now, do anybody want to change what they think? Go ahead, bro.
I feel like on the mind, body, and the spirit, it all goes back to the Bible, man. It says we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against spiritual wickedness in high places. Being that your spirit, God gave you a spirit. He said He formed us from His image. After His own likeness, He gave us a spirit, and He prepared us a body that we would be able to move around in this world. Now, I'm gonna have to take it back to the scripture, man, because that's what I stand on. That's the foundation. Wrestling not against flesh and blood, against spiritual wickedness in high places. What that tells me is your spirit has a mind of its own, your flesh has a mind of its own. Now, being that they war against each other, some of them things, if you allow it, if you allow the flesh to really just take over, and sometimes the flesh will give you some negative things. Those negative thoughts received, it comes from the flesh. Sometimes those negative thoughts received come from the spirit. You know what I'm saying? Because we're well connected. We're spirit. We receive those things. But renewing our minds would actually kind of hinder the inner pandemic, because we'll be able to train our mind the way we think, the way we move. If something was to happen, we'll be able to cope with it better, as opposed to say, like you said, you had an analogy if God put it on your spirit to give someone $5 and your mind says no, well, that's your spirit and your flesh warring against each other. You know what I'm saying? Because they don't want the same things. And that can cause inner pandemic, because you might want to bless this person with the $5, but then again, it might be your last $5. And your flesh is like, well, man, this is my last $5, man. You're going to be hungry later on. So that's where it will cause an indifference. You know what I'm saying? So you'll have to, it'll be like a decision making. And that's what an inner pandemic is. It's really like a decision making, man. You're gonna choose to stay in this state, or you can use this pandemic or this little situation. Like a lot of people use quarantine time to drink their water and get bigger, you can get better with health, financially stable. You know what I'm saying? We can use it to better ourselves and come out of that sick state of living. And that way it won't be in a pandemic. We can help someone else come out of their inner pandemic that they may be struggling with. Because we're all going through something. It's just different. You know what I'm saying? So our pandemics are all the same because they cause a change in the way we move. But at the same time, if I can come out of mine, you can come out of yours. It's just encouraging, uplifting. That's what we do.
I like that. I mean, just listen to what he's saying, coming out of the pandemic is more so, I think back to all the stipends that they give, you said financially. So in our reality, it was a come up because most of us all of us at some point had to stay stuck up in the house. So therefore you use less gas. They gave basically more food stamp. Like it was many ways we could capitalize for those that was actually given. But I just take the pandemic and think about it as, even just with mom said, if only I could see what God was showing, this was before the end came, you know what I'm saying? So I look at it like it had to get worse before it can get better. But we gotta know how to appreciate even it's bad, to be able to appreciate when it's good. So my pandemic actually started, you're right, last year, mine was November, because my life, for real, was already in a disarray before even life itself changed for everybody, So not only was I affected that way, but I lost something that was near and dear to me. Was I in a pandemic? To me, pandemic was epidemic of panicking, you know what I mean? And I can remember at one time, y'all remember I told you, I'm like, man, I can't think past this day, because when I do, I go in frantic, you know what I'm saying? So right now, it's still the same way. So, of course, stand on the word, what you said, the word, and that is, at the end of the day, don't worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow got its own problems. Let's just worry about right now. We panic because we wondering how the bills gonna get paid, but they gave us a little more money. We panicking because they say stay in the house, but we used to being able to go. We spoiled over here in the U.S. You ask me, so I don't know. It's perspective. I can't say it no different. Perspective.
All right. Well, bro, y'all jumped way ahead of me, but y'all know we on this advanced level, so it's just.
I think it's more so, see that consecration, us being away from each other. I'm so excited to even just be in this. To be honest, just even talking about this, like this was, we come out in 2020 saying how it was gonna be, not knowing that we were actually about to face such a radical change. So that time away from each other allowed us all to really just go in our closets and really, be able to sharpen. So you saying he went ahead? No, he didn't. It's just we got so much to say. I'm trying to absorb it. I miss this.
Yeah. And like y'all jumped ahead of, but y'all wasn't wrong. Y'all was just in my notes. Y'all was just in my notes. I ain't saying y'all was wrong, but I'm just speaking on what bro was saying. Like that was my next. What I was about to get into. I was saying that your mind can receive from the flesh and it can receive from the spirit. I was about to touch on that because I was gonna go over what's called a process of rationalization, and what that is different for different people. It's two different ways it could go. It is, and it goes from the physical to the mental. So what'll happen is, interacting in this physical world, in your physical body, moving through life, you will have something, and it'll be what's called a stimulant or a stimuli to one of your five senses, one, maybe more of your five senses. So you could be stimulated by something you see, hear, smell, taste, or touch from the outside. Now, what's going to happen when you're stimulated is your instinct is going to kick in. Now, if somebody runs up on you and punches you. If somebody runs up on you and punches you, now it's going to stimulate your body's sight, touch, feel. It's going to stimulate all that. So your instinct is going to want you to do one or two things. Fight or flight. That's instinctual. You don't have to think about that. Now, after the instinct kicks in, now you go into where it's either going to be one or the other for you, and this varies from person to person. You're either going to go into rationalization by logic and then emotion. So it will go stimulant, you stimulate it, you instinctively react to it, and then you can either logically assess what happened and then assess it emotionally, or you can emotionally assess what happened and then think about it logically. Now, let me give you an example. Somebody runs up on me and punches me. Now, my instinct is fight, not flight. So we throw down. Now, after we throw down is when I'm going to go into my rationalization process. I'm going to say, why did this person run up on me and swing on me? And after I think about why they did it, then I will allow myself to feel emotional about it. After I think about why did this happen? Oh, this happened because of this? Well, now I'm mad. Now I'm, or whatever. Versus the emotionality and then logic is somebody punches me, we throw down. After we throw down, I can't believe, man. I can't believe that nigga did that, man. I'm gonna get him. I'm gonna get him. I promise I'm gonna get him, man. I'm finna get that fool. I'm still in my emotions. And then after I calm down, like, man, nigga ran away, man. I don't know where he at. I can't find him. Then after you calm down emotionally, look, that's my voice for when I'm looking for somebody, yeah. But anyway, after you calm down emotionally, then you start to think, why did that person hit me? You see the difference?
Right.
And so that's the two ways to rationalize things that happen to you. You either gonna rationalize logically, then emotionally, or you're gonna rationalize emotionally and then logically. Now, why I had to say that is because you can receive stimulants from your physical body. You could be hungry, you could be sad, you could be angry, and all that will affect your mental state. And see, once your mental state is affected, that can affect your spiritual state. Or coming from the top down, like bro said, you have to learn that your spirit is able to receive information from itself, from God, the Holy Spirit, as well as other spirits. And what I mean by that is, if you've ever had a thought that, or just a random thought like, hey, you suck, or hey, go kill yourself. 9 times out of 10, you didn't think that thought, you received it. So it's important to know the difference between thoughts that you think and thoughts that you receive. Now, why we had to specify that is because you can receive a thought that will mess up your mental state. Or you can think a thought that will mess up your mental state.
I got what expressing, thinking, and receiving. Break that down.
Okay. Well, your spirit it uses your physical body to interact with the physical, but it's constantly in touch with the spiritual. And the spiritual supersedes all things that are physical. So the spiritual world is around us all the time, every second. We just can't see it. Some people can see it, some people can feel it, but there are spirits all around, all the time. And these spirits, they don't have a physical form. And to be on this plane of existence, even if they don't have a physical body, they still need energy. They still need human energy to stay in this plane of existence, or they will be sent back to the spirit world. So what they're constantly doing is they're constantly attaching themselves to humans. Now, this is not possession. Possession is when they take over you and then they use you they just use your body to do whatever it is their will. See, with your spirit in your body, they can't possess it. But what they can do is attach on to it. Like if I'm rolling in my wheelchair, my bro T, he in a wheelchair too, he can grab on to the back of my chair, and with me pushing, he can roll too. And that's basically what a spirit will do. See, you might encounter a spirit that likes to drink alcohol, but it has no body. It can't drink alcohol. So what does it do? It goes to a bar. It finds people that like to drink, and it attaches itself to that person that's drinking. Now it gets the feeling of drinking alcohol, even though it doesn't have a physical body to drink the alcohol with. Now, where does it run into a problem? If nobody wants to drink. So what does it have to do then? It has to find a person that's prone to drinking and say, hey, you suck. Bring up all these problems from the past. Now what does the person want to do? Man, I want to get a drink. You've just played right into it. You just played right into this spirit's hands. You received a thought which caused you, and in your unaware and in your ignorant, and ignorant just means unknowing. You didn't know. It's not ignorance and stupidity is not the same thing. In your ignorant state, you didn't know. So you thought that. So you went and got a drink, and you played right into the spirit's hands. And 9 times out of 10, it will stick around and use you for other things. Because it says, this is somebody that I can control emotionally. I can manipulate. So it's great to know the difference between thoughts you think and thoughts you receive. And 9 times out of 10, if it's a stupid thought, you received it, you didn't think it. But you can think negative thoughts, and that's just due to us being humans. If you have a bad day, then you might be inclined to think a negative thought. You might have a bad day at work, and you might say, you know what, this sucks. I hate my job, and you can get mentally distressed by that. So you can think thoughts that mentally distress you. You can receive thoughts that mentally distress you. You can have stimulants that mentally distress you. It's stress coming from all different places. And that's why I would say, in my esteemed opinion, that the outbreak starts in the mind.
Can I expound on thinking and receiving? I was just over here and I was absorbing everything that I was saying, and I was just thinking of a situation. It's like waking up in the morning, you know what I'm saying? And the first thought on your mind is to say your prayers. Now, sometimes it can come, that thought can come just being habitual. That's what you're used to doing, you know what I'm saying? But if you really if you love the Lord and you think on His goodness, that's what you thought. That's what you programmed yourself to do. You trained your mind to do that. Now, as opposed to waking up in the morning, man, I'm going to tell you what this person did, man. Come on, man, I'm finna whoop, well. Now you waking up, man, you ain't even said your prayers. First thing you hear is so negative. Well, a receiving thought oftentimes comes from someone else's problems that they bring you, or someone else's situation that they bring you. Now you're pondering on it. You understand? Now, and especially if you have a bond with this person, you understand? Say, this is my brother. Brother called me, man, they just jumped because, say this, it's over. My negative thoughts of receiving is on. You understand me? And it's turned on. I'm not trying to think anything positive. You feel me? You have to train yourself to think positive. You have to train yourself to receive those things. It's like, it's all about what you want and what you accept in your presence. If I don't promote, okay, let me use something that's more prevalent. If I don't promote gang banging, violence, and all this here, I don't even want that around me, bro. You understand me? I'm controlling my area. I'm controlling my presence. I'm controlling my energy, my aura. I'm controlling it because it's mine. You understand me? I don't want to receive nothing that you got going on. You understand me? Because everybody got baggage. Some got baggage that's just light. Some got heavy baggage. Some got baggage that'll break your back. You understand me? You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, you got to control your energy, your space, and don't allow those things, because if you got somebody that's already on a negative rank, they ain't said they prayers today, well, look, man, that energy travels, man. You understand me? That's just like 2 batteries, man. I need 2 batteries to make that remote play. You know what I'm talking about? I need a plug to plug into my game so I can plug it into the wall to turn my TV on, so I can play my game on my TV. It's all about what you plug into. You know what I'm saying? So if you plug into a negative outlet, you're gonna burn the house down. You feel me? You ain't gonna have no foundation. Now, if I'm plugged into like-minded people that's feeding into me when I get empty, you know what I'm saying? Well, man, I'm gonna have lights for days.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And everybody can come over here and enjoy it. Cause it's a good order and the lights is on. You understand? We ain't sitting in no dark as opposed to going to somebody that's just negative, man. You know what I'm saying? They don't want to do better.
And I feel that just like Trina was talking about earlier, you know, how we was blessed of, you know, receiving stipends, like, you know, it was a lot of people just like, oh yeah, man, I'm finna go, you know, I'm finna go do this, do that, do that, do this. And there's a lot of people that actually, you know, they use their money to go buy bottles, go gambling and, you know, do unnecessary things. But a smart person will surround his or herself around people that, you know, want to invest in their money, pay them bills on
That's
time.
true, that wanna be.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
They wanna be.
Yeah, that's how it is.
They don't want to just, you know, throw their money away, just like, you know what, no, I'm gonna go ahead and make it back. I'm going ahead and make it back. This ain't nothing we're gonna do again. You're gonna actually want to take that your time and surround yourself around people that's gonna build, and that's gonna, you know, be able to. Facts. And I feel like, you know, you need to surround yourself around people that's gonna help you, you know, pretty much help you invest in a positive way instead of a negative way. Because, you know, money, once it's gone, it's gone. It's that simple. It's that simple.
See, I'm gonna tell you, I don't mean to just, you know what I'm saying? Like, I miss this too, y'all, because I ain't really just had a chance to just share my knowledge that I've been thinking about things. You know what I'm talking about? But see, going back to the title, in a pandemic, a sixth state of living, that's what part of the sixth state of living comes from. Because a lot of people think that if I got a lot of money, I'm rich. You understand me?
Exactly.
But at the same time, man, there's people out here that got stuff you ain't never experienced in your life. That make them way more richer than you, cuz, and it's called a peace of mind.
So
It's
that,
called,
that's richer to have a
That's-
piece
that's-
of me.
cause it's priceless, man. You can have $1 million and can't buy peace, bro. You understand me? Yeah, you can go buy happiness, you can do some stuff that make you happy, but at the same time, when you go home and all that's gone down, you in it. You know what I'm saying? You ain't got no peace of mind, cause you got to go spend some more money to get happy. You know what I'm saying? You know, it's a lot of people that in that sixth state of living come from people building themselves up on what everybody else has, the bag that somebody else has, what they don't have. And bro, you got something that people that with a lot of money wish they had. They ain't got no peace of mind. You understand me? They ain't got no time to themselves. That's priceless. You understand me? You got to know that, bro. Like, you got to come up out of that one track mind, man. You got to be broad with your mind, man. I ain't talking about broad just going out and listening to every little sound wave of doctrine, you know what I'm talking about? Analyze it, man. Experience stuff for yourself, man. Go out and get into things and find out who you really are. You know what I'm talking about? And then you'll find out that sixth state of living that you was in, man, you done ran across somebody else. And now that person that you done ran across that came up out of theirs, and now they help you come up out of yours. You know what I'm talking about? So it's like we got to transform our mind, man. We got to renew our mind. Because if we don't renew our minds, bro, we'll be in a pandemic or sixth state of living for the rest of our lives, cuz. I ain't number 28. You hear me? I'm trying to see 75. No, I ain't trying to be no in a pandemic. I want peace. Man, people so built up on money, they don't even want to go to heaven no more. Huh? You don't even want to go, you don't even care what God got going for you no more. In his hand is riches and honor. And you chasing a bag.
And
How they go? You feel me? He got eternal life. You don't even know what's gonna happen tomorrow. You got to train your mind, man. Come on, bro. It's a sixth state of living, man. And the thing about it is, ain't nobody renewing their minds. Ain't nobody renewing their mind, David. I'm finna chasing the bag. I'm on the bag chase. I'm a paper chaser. Wake up tomorrow. Well, time to chase the bag again. I'm gonna chase it again. You ain't got no peace, cuz.
You know what? Like, just think about it. You know, I told y'all my pandemic started last year. You know, October 31st to be exact. And really, when you think about it, I know my purpose, but after you feel like you lost everything, you do want it to be redefined you know, you do seek him a little more, you know. You said doctrine. It ain't so much doctrine, but we've been exposed to so much more knowledge than what we had before. You know, it just really make you want to really seek, you know what I mean, and really see what it really is about. Because I know life is more to life than not only just even working. I work so much, you know what I'm saying? It's so much to life, and so I do need direction. I'm one of the ones. I'm gonna just be honest, you know what I'm saying? But I trust him. Again, I trust the process. You know what I mean? Go ahead, bro.
My bad. I'm just on bro. You know what I'm saying? Bro gave us the 6 stages of a pandemic. You understand? And what you just said was you needed direction. Well, that's the investigation stage. That's stage number 1. You understand me? You gotta keep it true with yourself, baby. What's the second stage of a pandemic? The investigation stage of a pandemic, when you find out that when you search for deep in yourself, you examine yourself, man. I'm talking about some self-reflecting, looking in the mirror and just being honest with yourself.
That part.
That's the investigation stage.
The second stage, recognition.
You know, recognize.
And now, well, how do you recognize the problem? Well, man, I need help.
And that's what I can boldly speak on.
I need help. See, it's all about the 6 stages of a pandemic, and everybody is in a pandemic within themselves. And you want to know who in a pandemic you and yourself, who you warn against? Yourself. You understand me? Yourself is the pandemic, bro, because you stopping yourself from receiving a lot of things.
Man, let me get back in here for y'all mess up my part too,
Go
man.
ahead, man. Go ahead, my bad.
Y'all gonna make
Yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah, man, we just, dropping knowledge, man. That's how it go. But like I said, in my esteemed opinion, I believe that the outbreak starts in the mind. And like I said, the mind is the gateway both ways, from the body to the spirit and back down from the spirit to the body. So I believe in a pandemic, the outbreak of it has to start in the mind with the thoughts that you think, which is what bro said from the first. Now, what happens with this is how now the title is Inner Pandemic, a Sick State of Living. Okay, now I said the 2 things we was gonna focus on was where it began and the steady stages of progression. Okay, so we didn't determine where the inner pandemic began. And out of the 3-part being that a human is, we didn't determine that the inner pandemic begins in the mind. Okay, so objective 1, complete. We found out where it began. Now, let's move on to the steady state of progression. How does it progress from an outbreak to an inner pandemic? A mental outbreak to a whole inner pandemic. So, to start, it starts with the thoughts that you think, and this could be either stimulated from the body to the mind, or possibly from the spirit to the mind. But does anybody wanna give a example of how they think a inner outbreak would spread and become an inner pandemic, which would lead to a sick state of living?
Well, Brother Greg, man, I would say an outbreak, a mental outbreak, it will be a situation that just pops up out the blue. You understand me? I don't like to use the financial part, but I'm gonna use this financial part for lack of a better term. You have a mother that has 2 kids, and she's at work. She's working hard. She has to get the bill money, but doesn't know that there's an eviction letter on her door. You understand me? Now, when she gets home, that's an outbreak. Oh man, look at this situation now. I got to try to, oh Lord, I got to try to fight because I got my kids. Now, when she's dwelling on that mental outbreak, where she's so stressed out by dwelling on that mental outbreak, it becomes an inner pandemic. Now she's so worried about, I got to have a place for my kids. I got to have somewhere to feed I can't let my kids sleep on the street. Well, that mental outbreak has now progressed to a pandemic because she has something that she has to fight for. It's not just her in this thing. Now she has a pandemic that can potentially affect her children. You understand? So now that mental outbreak, where as if she was there by herself, well, yeah, she could have kind of coped with it. Oh Lord, I'm gonna lose my house. I gotta find somewhere else to stay. Well, it's just that much harder when you got 2 kids. You understand me? And this mental outbreak has switched to a pandemic because, man, these kids ain't did nothing to deserve this.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? These kids, they don't know what's going on. They don't know. They don't know what an eviction letter is because they ain't did nothing but the 2nd and the 3rd grade.
Yeah.
You understand me? So that mental outbreak has switched to a pandemic, man, because it's either do something about it, make a way, or be out on the street with your 2 kids. And they gonna sleep under the street light, under the bridge, in a box. You know what I'm saying? You don't want to have to get out there. And a lot of women switch to, you know what I'm saying, they have to do very bad things just to provide for their kids. I'm not downing anybody on that because you have, as a mother gonna do whatever she got to do, man. I come from that, you know what I'm saying? A mother gonna do whatever she got to do to provide for her kids. Now, when a mental outbreak, a mental situation, or a situation in life comes, that's what a mental outbreak is. It's a life situation, a life experience that comes and it affects you in a negative way. You understand? Now, when this mental outbreak comes, you don't just sit down and just get woe on yourself. You know what I'm talking about? You got to come up out of there. Yeah, it came, the situation became, but the progression state that you have to take is, well, let me go ahead and I can go to the office and try to talk to these people so I can keep my house. What do I have to do so I can keep whatever I need, whatever I'm about to lose? But once you get down on yourself, when life throws you a mental outbreak and you ponder on it and you just get down on yourself, well, you allow a pandemic to set in, and that's depression. You know what I'm saying? Stress kills. What does a pandemic do? A pandemic has the ability to kill. You understand me? People are losing their lives from the pandemic of the coronavirus. So stress is like a pandemic, cuz, you know what I'm talking about? When life throws you a situation and you choose to just sit back and woe is me, why they ain't going through this, why I always have to do this, well, you put yourself down. All you got to do is get up and try again. Don't never be a failure, but try. You know what I'm saying? A just man falls 7 times in a day, but what makes him just is that he know he has the ability to get back up. Well, we simply don't get back up. A just man goes through mental outbreaks all the time. He went through 7 of them. You know what I'm saying? That's why he failed. You know? But the thing about it is he got back up out of there. You know what I'm talking about? And that's what we got to do, man. A mental outbreak can transform to a pandemic of 6 days living by us simply dwelling on things that we don't need to dwell on. We worry about things we shouldn't worry about. Even the Bible tells us be anxious for nothing, but with everything, prayer and supplication, make known your request to God. He quickly tells us to trust in Him with all thine heart, lean not to thine own understanding, but acknowledge Him and He shall direct thy paths. Acknowledge Him in all thy ways. That's what we have to do. When we fall, seek thee first the kingdom of heaven. What is going to get you up? Don't set your mind on things of the earth, where moth and dust do corrupt. You got to set your things on higher. Set your mind on higher things, man, and that's how you come up out of it. If you're in a mental outbreak, set your mind on coming up out of that thing. You know what I'm saying? You can't just get down on yourself. You know.
I think the struggle is more so having to deal with the human part of it, the functioning of being human and being, as bro was explaining, the earthly realm of it, the carnality of things. You know, like we can go into as far as politics. I don't really like to discuss politics, but we live in politics, you know what I mean? So it's like some things is hard to get away from. So that's what I mean when I say wanting to know the purpose, because I know not even so much the purpose, redefining the purpose, actually the new direction of the purpose, because we understand and know that He called us for such a time as this. It's greater than just what we see. You know what I mean? We got some things that He wants the world to hear, not, through us. a process. So whatever it is, I trust him. You know what I'm saying? But I'm just speaking. You gotta think about it. When you in tune with him, as you said, what I spent my time feeding my spirit man. I understand and know that it's bigger than me. But it got some people that. See, you got people that you know hadn't fed that spirit man like how we were speaking on. So in the midst of them not feeding that spirit man, they ain't got no other choice but to be in a inner pandemic. Simply because, again, what you spoke on as far as peace. They peace have been disturbed because everything is abnormal. You know what I'm saying? It's hard to stay the same when everything around you will change. So you gotta think about it. You gonna panic, you know what I mean? Again, just like bro say, fight or flight. Well, guess what? 2020 came out what we said. We was fighting, we were at war, we were battling. You know what I mean? But we didn't know that this what it was gonna be. We were going into a pandemic, but globally, not just us, individually. Cause at one time, look, just think about it, block builders, how we got hit with so many deaths, and we were still lifting each other up. When in reality, for the average person like bro Greg took 3 hits, family, you know what I'm saying? That's a lot for the mind, as you say. You know, that's a pandemic. That's gonna cause you to, cause it ain't the same. I done gave my body something else that it ain't used to. Cause I'm used to talking to cuz, I'm used to talking to you know what I mean? So now I can't, like, my mind is gonna go through and I'm saying, I'm using you, me, losing mom, you know what I'm saying? Bro T, grandma, your mama, Kim, like, all of us done took a loss. So when it comes to a pandemic, it ain't just what we are as in a current, you know, globally, physically, but mentally. Man, we all been going through a pandemic. And it might have been long before 2019. We just didn't understand it. Now we at the stage of being able to identify. When you can identify, you can feed it.
Yo, go ahead, bro.
So, I just wanted to get to the point of, like I was saying, think of it as like a generation curse mentally. If you have the mindset, like maybe, like, grandparents told mom and dad, you ain't never gonna be nothing, you ain't never gonna make, you start hearing that over and over and over again, you start passing it down generation to generation. But it's just like, somebody has to step up and say, look, I can't stay like this. I can't forever keep the same mindset. I can't, keep this global pandemic or this mindset of, negativity all the
That's
time.
amazing you say that. Just think about it. In every family,
Right.
we got those that are more than, we got, those that we ratchet, we gonna have a good time, I don't care who looking, you know what I'm saying? We got they gonna drink at every gathering, you got some that's gonna smoke at every gathering, like you say family curses, but in all reality, who the judge? Cause we all got some wretchedness.
Bro, continue.
Yeah. And I'm gonna take us on out, man, by we done went over so many things, we done touched on so many things. We went over where did the outbreak begin, where did the pandemic begin. We clarified that it began in the mind, we expounded on that. Now I'm just gonna give my definition of the steady progression of the inner pandemic from the outbreak to the pandemic stage. Being that I said in my esteemed opinion, I believe that the outbreak starts in the mind. What would happen is that either from spiritual forces or carnality playing against the mind, it will cause a person to start to think negative thoughts and start to think hurtful thoughts and harmful thoughts. And this is the beginning of the outbreak. Now, if the person doesn't quickly fix this, then the outbreak, like Bro T said, may get more severe and may turn into a mental disorder, possibly depression, anxiety, frustration, things of that nature. And now what this has done is it will, if gone too long, gone unchecked, the mental epidemic will start to affect the spirit. Now, how would this happen? You say, well, if you constantly think negative, you will become negative.
Correct.
You will become a negative person. You will become if you constantly think angry thoughts, you will have no choice but to become an angry person. Now, is that in your body? No, that's not in your body. That's in your spirit. Your spirit has now changed, become sick even, to the spirit of an angry person, the spirit of a deceitful person, the spirit of a sad person. All started with the outbreak, the mental outbreak. Now it's moved into your spirit, changing your spirit. And we work from the top down. As we said, your spirit is what tells your mind what to do. And then your mind has the choice to tell your body. So once your spirit becomes negative, once your spirit becomes sick and contaminated, you will think sick and contaminated thoughts. You won't have to receive them, you'll think them yourself. And once you start to think sick and contaminated thoughts, you will do sick and contaminated things in the physical world through your body. Now, you have just experienced a inner pandemic because it has spread from your mind to your spirit, to your body. It has crossed the boundaries, which has turned it from an epidemic to a pandemic. And now you are essentially in a sick state of living because you're living sickly. And the reason we wanted to touch on this is because, yes, we talk about COVID-19. Yes, we talk about how bad of a pandemic that was, but we walk around and are internally sick. The majority of us, internally sick, mentally sick, spiritually sick, physically sick. And we treat that like it's nothing. We treat that like it's nothing. So what we're doing with this session is we're addressing the inner pandemic, and that a lot of people in this, not just this country, in this world, in this plane of existence, are living sick. So what we're gonna do when we come back on next Thursday with part 2 is we're gonna give y'all some mental medicine on how to get out of this sick state of living and how to cure the inner pandemic. Block Builders out.